A new generation of Love Live has started. This is going to be another vent video where I lay out my thoughts and opinions for this season's insert songs. I'll also discuss the soundtrack and experience of watching Superstar at the end. But before we get into that, let's start with the first insert song. This song is great. Starting with the lead-in, the first episode establishes that Kanon loves singing, but gave up on her dreams due to distressing past experiences, performance anxiety, and a fear of failure. Ever since then, she gave up on her passion and has been bitter about it ever since. She gave up on her dreams before the show even started. But then she was approached with an offer to form an idol group, one where she could sing and express her love of music. She initially turned it down, but changed her mind. This was her chance to do what she loved. In the conflict between her love and her fears, her love won out and she turned around. By the end of the first episode, she was able to bring herself to sing in front of a small group of people, something she's failed to do before. It's a compelling character progression at the very start of the show. Focusing on Kanon's personal story made a strong initial hook and an effective build-up for this musical number. The first episode was great in general. In my opinion, it did everything right. Now on to the song itself. Besides the OP, this is the only insert song of the season that is mostly a fantasy, akin to a musical number in a stage play. One of the ways you can tell is at the start of the song, when Kanon's headphones disappear between camera cuts when she starts singing. Another non-diegetic detail is that all of the future Liella members were included. While it's obvious Chisato, Ren, and Sumire will join the group eventually, at this point in the story, they haven't shown any interest in being idols. But the song title does translate to Future Forecast Hallelujah in English. I like the visuals. The color design is especially good, notable examples being the evening lighting and the fantasy flower field in the first chorus. I like the flowers, tree line in the background, and even the surprisingly detailed boxes they're standing on. As long as you ignore this disappearing tree, it's a well-constructed environment. But even with all the work they put into the stage, the camera instead makes the conscious choice to focus just on the sky in a lot of shots. I understand why. Kanon's future forecast is a bright, clear sky. Here's another part of the song I like. I like how she's belting out these lines. It gives me the sense that she's been holding back her feelings for a long time. This is my favorite insert song from the season for two reasons. First, it strongly ties into Kanon's character story. The song starts after she reaffirms her passion for music, and the entire song has a cathartic feeling to it. And second, I would say it has the most varied and interesting visuals out of all the songs this season. Being one of the only music videos with major fantasy elements helps, since it lets them be more creative with the environments and what's happening on screen. It's a fun opening. The pace of the vocals flow well, and it has some fun visual details. For one, the big spinner they're standing on. During the individual character solos, it changes to the image color of whoever is singing. I like the dynamic of Sumire and Ren livestreaming. It's too bad the two of them didn't stream by themselves in the anime. It could have made for a fun comedy segment, considering how different their personalities are. I also got Nozarelli vibes from this shot, if you know what I mean. The OP takes place in the stadium used for the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics, the same 2020 Olympics that delayed the broadcast of Superstar by 3 weeks in the middle of its airing, plus a non-consecutive 4th week for the Paralympics. It feels a bit lonely to have Liella performing at a stadium without an audience. Maybe they'll have a full audience for their second season OP to coincide with their rise to stardom. In my Niji video, I linked Nijiro Passions above the School Idol Project OPs, but below the Sunshine ones. I would place Start 2 Dreams between Nijiro Passions and Azura Jumping Heart. It has a better 2D animation and flows better than Nijiro Passions does, but it's not as hype as Jumping Heart. The lighting and backgrounds are especially good in this ending. The running scene in the preview is a cool shot, and the locations around town are detailed. The colors are warm and there's a relaxing atmosphere. It's an upbeat song. I liked when the initial notes would play at the end of each episode before the ED started. It's a very light ED, exclusively portraying slice of life scenes with the cast. It's actually lighter in tone than many episodes of the series itself, but not to a jarring degree. It still fits the overall image of Superstar and Love Live in general. Like a lot of the Love Live ending songs, the vocals change depending on which character the episode focused on. I decided to use the canon solo version because I like the way it sounds the best. Tiny Stars is another good one. At first I thought they were going to have this song illuminated only with the glow of pen lights from the audience, like this, but instead the lights came back on right as they started. It would have been a cool idea, but realistically the audience would still need to see the performers, and pen lights wouldn't make enough light to accomplish that. Another thing I noticed about this song is they used the same visual effect to represent the pen lights and audience as they used in Tsunagaru Connect. The vocals in this song are nice. I like how there's a slight echo to their voices in the first verse, making it sound like the characters are on a stage. Kanon and Cuckoo's voices also work well together. The visuals are polished, with quality 2D animation segments, CGI, and good visual effects, like the flower petals in the air and the reflection on the stage floor. I also saw an interesting post on Twitter from Cow, pointing out that Kanon and Cuckoo start to look tired as the song goes on, but in a subtle way since they're new at performing. I thought that was a good bit of realism to add to the music video. I don't have a lot to say about this one commentary-wise. It's good on a technical level. The choreography is more complex than the previous songs, maybe to represent Chisato joining the group. And, this might just be me, but the color design reminds me of citrus-flavored tropical drinks, if that makes any sense. It's a tropical-themed song, and I can almost taste it off the visuals. The context of the song reminds me of two previous songs from past series. It reminds me of Boku no Live because it takes place at a school festival after the student council president joins the idol group. And it reminds me of Majuku Dreamer, since they brought out the old costume designs from the past idol group featuring Ren's mom. Although the message goes in the opposite direction. Majuku Dreamer starts with the old costumes so they can leave the past behind, while Wish Song uses the old costumes as a celebration of the past in part. The song is alright, but I feel like its biggest appeal was lost on me. I'm just not emotionally invested in Ren or her character story, so the song's emotional impact didn't reach me. But it's certainly not a bad insert song. The production is still solid, and I appreciate the sincerity. It also ends on a nice image of Liella, now a fully formed 5-member idol group. It's not a musical performance, but it's technically still an insert song. I remember that School Idol Project and Sunshine each had one of these, being O Love and Peace and Soromo Kokoro respectively, both playing after important plot points, especially in Sunshine's case. Dreaming Energy is used differently. While it follows Kanon coming up with the group name, my take on this song is it's more about enjoying life. There's a day and night difference between the Kanon from episode 1 and how she's acting in this montage. It goes to show how much of her spirit returned after she stopped giving up on what she loved. Another part of the song that stood out to me is that it's just nice to have a club to go to every day and a group of friends who are happy to see you. Okay, this is a fun one. First off, the smug. Just look at this. I did not expect this much smug to come from Chisato. Nonfiction is a fairly different kind of song from what Love Live usually does. It might be the most stylish song of the season, which is why it's one of, if not the most popular song Liella has put out so far. They're trying something different here, and they pulled it off well. Naomi Payton also nailed the vocal delivery for the sound they were going for in the opening verse. This is definitely a Sumire song. Speaking of that, While Superstar doesn't have character-focused inserts like Niji does, the songs still match to the different members of Leela. Tiny Stars fits as a Cuckoo song. Tokonatsu Sunshine feels like a Chisato song. Wish Song obviously goes to Ren, and Nonfiction is a Sumeri center. Future Forecast Hallelujah is largely focused on Kanon, so that could be her character-focused song. Unless they decide to dedicate a song specifically to her, where Kanon is the only person singing it. Watashi no Symphony originally released with Leela's first single, that came out 3 months before the anime. It must have been written with the anime in mind, because the lyrics are describing Kanon's character journey. She's come a long way since her introduction. She was finally able to overcome her stage fright completely. And by singing alone on the stage where her fears originated, we know that she's finally moved past the failure that's been hanging over her for years. There's a nice scene before the song when Kanon looks back at her past and finishes processing the moment where her stage fright began. It was a risky move for Chisato to bring her back here, but it let Kanon sort through the last of her emotional baggage from that day. One aspect of the song that stood out to me was that it was almost entirely done in 2D animation. There was only one shot using CGI. CGI is often used in this series when there are a lot of characters on screen, or when there's a camera movement that's easier to do using 3D models rather than 2D animation. This would be one of those. I found it odd that they decided to utilize CGI, but only for one small section of the music video. It's not a complaint, I just found it an odd choice. It's a good song to end the season on. The winter visuals look nice, and I like the rainbow effect in the background. Like in the OP, the colors change depending on who is singing. But what's cool about this one is you can see the image colors going all the way up the hill behind them. Starlight Prologue also has some nice camera shots and lighting, and the Christmas lights in the background add a lot of detail to the stage. Anyone familiar with the franchise can also see it's an homage to Snow Halation. Not only from the winter theme, but the way the stage turns orange during the bridge. They even pulled the classmates guiding them to the stage scene from Melody of the Heart. I don't mind the references myself, but I've actually seen a negative reaction to this online. The primary complaint being that Superstar was duplicating iconic scenes from School Idol Project, without the emotional build-up. I can see where they're coming from. School Idol Project's winter arc was one of the best parts of the show. Snow Halation wasn't just a standout song on its own. The whole build-up to the song, starting with My Wish, is what made Snow Halation impactful. In contrast, the lantern scene and performance in Superstar happen without any real build-up behind them. Despite that, it's a good song, and it's majestic enough to be worthy of being the mid-series finale, even if some of the elements around the insert song are derivative. The Leela no Uta songs were a nice bonus that were added on to the end of the episodes from the NHK broadcast of Superstar. I like them, but I don't have any commentary to add. Overall, the insert songs from this season were pretty good. None of them were bad, and the production was solid across all of them. From a technological level, they seem to be on par with the Niji songs. Although, while Superstar's insert songs have better 2D animation, I prefer the way the Niji songs were constructed. They have a snappier editing style and a more active camera. I also liked how most of the songs were centered around a single personality, which provided strong theming for each music video. Another topic I wanted to mention was how good the original soundtrack for Superstar was. They brought back Yoshiaki Fujisawa as the background music composer, which is great since I liked his previous work on School Idol Project's soundtrack. Aside from his generally solid background score, I wanted to highlight a few moments where the OST really stood out to me.
私ね、あの時本当に感激したの。精神が震えた。私、カノンちゃんのできないことをできるようになる。カノンちゃんの歌みたいに大好きで夢中になれるものではいけませんよ。カノンちゃん。最初この部室に来た時何があったっけ？どこには。ここにあるの？わからない。でも多分何かが。こっちは何もなかったです。ただの物置だよ。何かがここに。
村人だって大切な役よ。
私が。
すみれさんには主人公の友達役をやってもらいます。
私が。
栄えあるグランプリは
衣装？どういうつもり？衣装作りはククの仕事ですので。いいからとっとと着るです。
That last song was placed especially well within the episode. The instruments convey the mood of the scene and really enhance the presentation. The way the music builds during Sumire's private training session was on point. It matches both her sadness from her past failures along with her dedication towards her temporary placement as the group center. The decrescendo at the end also fits well, following the decreasing intensity of the scene. I'm glad they brought back the original series composer, because he's written many memorable OST songs for the franchise. Love Live Superstar's first season is another solid entry in the Love Live franchise. The production values continue to improve, Kanon's character story was handled well, and Superstar had some of the best comedy in the franchise. I also think it had the strongest initial 3 episodes out of the 4 shows so far. If I had to mention the negatives, I feel like the show lost some of its momentum after those initial 3 episodes. I wasn't too interested in the drama in the middle of the show. They were able to pace it out better due to the smaller cast, but the Chisato and Ren arcs didn't really engage me. And the experience of watching the premiere of Superstar wasn't ideal. A big part of that was due to the broadcast deal with the NHK. It's a large TV network in Japan, so it greatly increased the reach of the show. But it also caused a few issues. I previously mentioned the big hiatus the show took in the middle of its airing. It's understandable the NHK would want to cover the Olympics instead, but I can easily see less invested viewers falling off the show, especially since the hiatus came after only episode 2. There was also the timed exclusivity deal the NHK had on the premiere broadcast. This split the Western viewership of the show into 3 categories: people who could watch the initial viewing and spoke Japanese, those who watched the Team Onibe fansubs, and the others that waited for the official release on streaming services. This made spoilers a possibility, and it likely broke up fan discussions because people watched the new episodes at different times. Speaking of fan discussions, there wasn't a lot of analysis of Superstar. I followed the fan reactions to Niji Gisaki's first season on online forums such as Reddit and Mal. Anecdotally, I saw more people talking about Niji in general, and there was an anomaly where some posters would write thousands of words about the show. Following the analysis and speculation around Aimu's character story was unironically fascinating and a ton of fun to follow. I knew Superstar wasn't going to have a plotline like that, but I was surprised by how little analytical coverage the show got overall. There was still some analysis of Superstar on the forums, but I'm not sure what caused the difference. My best guess is either because of the staggered viewings, or because Niji was just more inspiring for analysis. Or maybe the commenters that wrote a lot about Niji were just busy in real life and didn't have time for extended discussions of the show. It's just an aspect of following Niji's first season that I personally enjoyed. And I know this doesn't apply to most people watching the show. It's a tangent from discussing the insert songs, but it's something that's been on my mind ever since the show ended. Except it hasn't ended. It's getting a second season. Most fans agree that School Idol Project hit its stride in Season 2, and Superstar has the same director and lead writer. Now that the characters have been introduced, the writers likely have more freedom for where they want to take the story next. Niji Gisaki is also getting a second season soon, and I'll be looking forward to both. Thank you for watching my Love Live Superstar video.